Hello people, it's Blake here. As you can see, I've got a fairly old car that I need, come to the age where it needs a bit of work, and I quite like working on it. So as I do that, I'm decided I'll show it and put it on YouTube. So I've got a few things planned for this car, not modifying, just normal maintenance, that sort of stuff. This issue was forced on me. I'm that guy that let a brake pad get right down to the backing plate, as you'll see later on. So I'm sort of wanting to do a bit of work on it in about 3 or 4 weeks time, but this issue couldn't wait. So let's have a look at swapping out rotors, swapping out brake pads. So I'm going to do both sides of the rears at the same time. I'm not just going to switch out one rotor and pads on one side, get them both done at the same time so they're both even and hopefully have relatively similar braking force for that reason. Right now I'm taking off the rear caliper on the good side. This isn't the side that's making the noise. The other side started making a dull grinding noise, and I checked the pads regularly, and I could see that the ones I could see on the outside are still in spec. You'll see we had a little problem that caused the inner pad on the passenger side rear to be the only one that was being used. So good time to take it off. Anyway, obviously you don't just let the caliper dangle from the hydraulic hose. You tie that bitch up. That's what I'm doing there, just with a little bit of wire I had lying around. Checking the thickness of the rotor, because at this stage I had planned to just take him to a machine shop, get him machined, put him back on. This car's a 2003 Mitsubishi Magna, so it doesn't need special bits. You can see that's what I had there was the brake pad that had been worn all the way down to the backing plate, so that was a nice little surprise. I bought brake pads like a year ago, just knowing that eventually it'd be a part that I need to replace. I don't take this car to a service shop anymore. I just do all the work myself, and I just, instead of spending money on a mechanic, I just collect tools and start to collect a bit of experience in working on cars. This is the driver's side rotor coming off. There's nothing wrong with it. It could just be machined and put straight back on. The rears on the old Mitsubishi Magnas, they use a drum brake, as well as the disc on the rear. The drum brake is the handbrake. I'm just blasting out a bit of the brake dust that's built up over time. This is the cause of the noise. That's the very scored and pitted inner side of the rear passenger side brake rotor, and there's a bit of a cleanup job to do now. So this is the parts for the hydraulic rear drum brakes. So there's a hydraulic reservoir at the top. These parts all sit inside that and forcing the shoes out onto the inside of the brake rotor. Just putting those back in there because I'm not mucking around. I need to muck around with the drum brake setup. There's a bit of dirt's got into the boot where the lever actuates the hydraulic pistons. It needs to come out, needs to be cleaned. A new boot needs to be put on. It's a bit of a mess. So we'll do all that in 3 or 4 weeks time. This is just moving the shoe setup back into place over the pistons. New brake rotors. Easy to get some parts for old Mitsubishi Magnas, obviously. Cost me $160 for a pair of them. not putting anti-seize or anything on it yet. It'll come off when I have to when I have to sort out the handbrake setup. So it's only going to be on there for a few weeks before it's back off again. So then my attention focuses to the brake caliper. First I'm forcing the piston back because it needs to receive a set of shoes with full brake material on them. Just that brake disc caliper resetting tool is just a $10 thing from Super Cheap. You can just force it back as it is, and the extra fluid will just shoot back up into the reservoir. Better way to do it is to open up the bleeding valve. That way it'll use the valve so it won't seize up on you when you actually do need to use it. And because that hydraulic fluid closest to the caliper heats up and cools down so often and to such extremes, it's probably good to get some new fluid. So this is one of the guide pins I found. The other guide pin came out easy. This one was seized. I got it out eventually and saw that the guide pin is quite badly rusted and pitted and scored. But apparently new calipers cost about $600, so I'm just going to send it home straight back in there, and I'll just have to. I don't know why it rusted. The boot was fine. But yeah, water must have got in there. Maybe it's sometime when I've left it sit for a month or something when I've been off doing jobs. But I'll give it a good clean up, get all that rust off, and at least get it sliding again. Just kerosene out on the driveway and some. I was hitting it with a bit of brake parts cleaner before. I'm going to be doing some engine work on it in the upcoming videos. So all the belts need to change. The car's now done more than 200,000 Ks, so it's going to be timing belt, all the auxiliary belts. I've got some rear suspension struts, might whack them in. We're going to do a front brake job where we get the discs machined because they're still going to be in spec. This car's starting to use a bit of oil, so we'll do valve guide seals as well. So I saw on one of the other YouTube channels, I can't remember which one, but they recommended this copper-based lubricant. Apparently that doesn't eat away at the boots or something, so a bit of copperies in there. Some people use a silicone. It's just important to make sure that it won't eat away at the rubber boot. You want to keep water out of there for the reasons that we've seen today. So I'm just lubricating those guide pins and then forming the boot over the edges on the caliper, just to give it every chance to keep water out and keep that lubricant in, keep those guide pins sliding freely. And let's hope that lasts a couple of weeks. That's the closest one's the one that I found seized, and the surface isn't smooth, it's pitted. So in a few weeks when we take it off, we'll see if that's going to be a sustainable thing, or there's going to have to be a new caliper go on. Well, that slides without any effort anymore, so that's going to put 2 brake pads on the surface of the rotor. So we're just forcing that piston back in a bit further. Get some brake pads in there. None of this is performance gear, it's just OE replacement parts. This is a 2003 Mitsubishi Magna. It just needs to be looked after. The brakes, the factory brakes, are more than suitable for the factory power and factory weight, and intended normal usage of it.